Let's get started. Hope you all can see my screen. Right. All right. Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us today. And I welcome you all to the fourth session of Colombo Data and AI Meetup today. I know it's quite late for the folks joining from South Asian region, especially India and Sri Lanka. So I really appreciate you taking time to join us today as well. I'm Dunit Danushka, the founder of the Meetup group, as well as I'll be your host today. Before we kick things off, let me quickly introduce ourselves. Uh, for those who are joining for the first time, so I'll give you a little introduction to who we are and what we do. So basically, Colombo Data and AI Meetup is a virtual platform to connect data professionals, academics, students, and any anyone with the interest in data to connect together so that we can help out each other, we can learn from each other, and then also provide networking opportunities, uh, career guidance, interview preparation help, anything. So basically, initially started centered around Colombo, capital of Sri Lanka, but it's a virtual platform, so it's open for anyone. So basically, the topics we discuss is mostly centered around general data and AI. So we start from standard and more popular topics like data engineering, data analytics, BI, and then we also work towards more bleeding edge technologies like generative AI, agentic AI workflows, and machine learning as well. We operate in a monthly cadence. That means we'll have meetups once a month. So every meetup we announce in the meetup.com. So we have dedicated meetup group there. And also we have a companion Facebook page where we announce our new meetups and any interactions happening there as well. In addition to that, we have a Slack workspace, which is open to everyone. So I'll talk about this in detail in the next slide. So this is for the asynchronous communication. And then also we have a companion YouTube channel that we have our all past recordings. So in case of if you happen to miss any session, you can uh, log into this YouTube playlist and you can catch up with the recording as well. So don't worry about today's, even if you can't join it. So you can, once the meetup is over, I'll post the links to these resources so that you can find them in the right places. So we have this public Slack workspace with the name Colombo Data and AI Meetup. So if you scan the QR code in the right-hand side, you will get an invite. You can join it. You can join there. So basically, what we discuss here is some general topics on data and AI, and also we do new meetup announcements, and then we also try our best to post hiring alerts and also interview preparation guides. So based on our bandwidth, we can help people to prepare for their interviews in data space. And then also, if you run into any issues, experts can help out people as needed as well. Right. So that's about us. So what are we going to talk about today? So basically, to, today's topic is about democratizing data and analytics across enterprises at scale. So basically, when you consider any organization, any business, access to analytics and insights is especially it's limited or restricted for a special group of people. So, for example, C-suite executives like executive leaders and data science departments and analysts, they only have direct access to these analytics. But what about frontline workers like marketing people and then sales people? They want to use this insight in their day-to-day jobs, right? So how do we provide self-service access to these analytics and insights within an organization? And mostly how we can do it in a scalable fashion. So that's the problem we are trying to uh, find out today. So in order to talk about that, we have our amazing speaker today, Turja N Chaudhuri, joining from Kolkata, India. And Turja is a global platform pre-sales leader at Big Four, and he's a cloud architect, platform evangelist, and an AI enthusiast with 13 years in IT. And also, he's specialized in platform engineering, representing uh, platform engineering ambassador and the CNCF programs. And he's a working group member of CNCF platforms as well. And most importantly, he has a good followership across social media as a data leader and uh, uh, inspiration provider as well. So, Turya, thanks. Welcome to the session, and thanks for joining us today. I know it's your Friday evening, so I really appreciate you taking time for us to be with us. I'll stop sharing the screen and over to you.
Thank you so much, Dunya. Thank you. Let me just share my screen. Just a second. Start sharing my entire screen. And let me know if you can see my screen.
It's coming up. Yeah, we can see. All good.
Again, first of all, thank you, Rooney. Thank you for the wonderful work you are doing for the community, especially the Colombo community. So again, as you know, right, India and Sri Lanka are kind of like neighbors.
Right.
And I would like to go there somewhere and visit it, right, the beaches and all. We see the photos. But firstly, again, hugely thrilled to be here. So the idea, like Gunit said, right, the overall idea is democratizing data and analytics across an enterprise at scale, a platform-centric approach. And we'll go through this very easily. And this should be interesting, right? I've done this sort of talk to other people, right? C-suites, executives, and this is interesting, right? There's a problem that companies want to solve, and right, we have traditionally not been able to solve this to a very large extent. Very brief about me. Currently, I'm the global platform pieces lead at a big four consulting company. Right, I have a lead a team of roughly 40 to 45 people here. I have roughly 14 years of experience. I worked in companies like PwC, Accenture, Samsung Research. I have primarily a large interest in platform engineering and basically how things work at scale. So that's what I do normally. I take a technology that is coming up and then I try to understand, okay, where can it break at scale? How can I work with this technology beyond the simple hello world and scale it across, let's say, 450,000 organization, member organization. Again, a very quick disclaimer: this is not my company representation. I think this all I'm doing as my personal capacity, and this is nothing to do with the company I work for. Okay, so this is the overall agenda. Very, very simple. This pure play common sense. Nothing very complicated about this, right? So if you just follow the flow, I hope you will get some good insights out of this. So we'll start with some context. So the context will help us understand why all of us are here on a Friday listening to this. Why this is interesting, both for us as individuals in our career, and also why is it interesting for enterprises. So that is a context. Then I will discuss the data problem that is today in this whole enterprise landscape. We have so much data, so many different types of data. What is this thing? This is the data problem. How serious it is. See, the bigger the problem, the better for us, because then we get paid a lot to fix the problem, right? If we know our stuff. Then I will give an overview of platforms, because that is very important. This concept of platforms and platform engineering, this is key to unlocking many things across an enterprise. So I'll give that overview. And then we will go to the democratizing data and analytics part, which is the main part, so to speak, right? But again, all of this is a sequence, is a story, basically. And section 5 is some closing thoughts. Okay, without further ado, let us get started. So this slide shows how much money venture capitalists and investors are putting in generative AI startups. So if you see the money that has been put in the 3 quarters of 2024 is more than the total money that has been put in 2022 and 2023. Again, record setting kind of funding spree for 2024 for Gen AI companies, right? Whereas all the other companies are not doing that well. If you see the money that is being put into Gen AI ecosystem is huge. What are some of the top 5 companies? We all know OpenAI, Sam Altman's OpenAI. We know XAI, Elon Musk, right? We know Safe Superintelligence, maybe that is the company built by Ilya. Ilya was one of the founders of OpenAI. Then we have Anthropic, which is the parent company for Claude models, and Mistral. So these are just the top 5 startups slash enterprises. To some extent, they're not even a startup anymore, but let's call them startup. So these top 5 companies who have got the most money. Now, why? Why do you think investors are spending so much money on GenAI? Right? Because it's not like they want to lose the money, right? It's their hard-earned money as well. So there is an analysis that was done where Stripe, there's a company called Stripe, they analyzed the revenue of the top 200 startups working on GenAI versus the revenue of top 200 SaaS companies. So top 200 GenAI companies versus top 200 SaaS companies. And they're seeing that AI companies are growing 3 times faster than SaaS. So this shows an annualized revenue of $30 million. So if a company reaches an annual revenue of $30 million, we say, okay, that company is doing something right. So as you can see, in 20 months, roughly in 20 months, most of the AI companies are reaching that annualized revenue of $30 million, where the same SaaS companies took roughly 60 months. So 3 times longer than these GenAI companies. So this could be one of the reasons why the investors are so bullish, because they know that these AI companies will make a lot of money. Let's take an example of a company which we all know, which is OpenAI, right? The founder of ChatGPT, let's say. So if you see, it started in 2015, more like a research org. If you see in 2023, OpenAI hit a annual revenue of $1.6 billion. Okay, $1.6 billion in 2023, they hit it. In 2024, that revenue has doubled to $3.7 billion, more than double. So just imagine, in 1 year, this company has grown from $1.6 billion to $3.7 billion. These are not small numbers, right? These are huge numbers, right? So very interesting. Similarly, if you see, in October 2024, OpenAI at that time closed the largest funding round. They raised $6.6 billion. It made a lot of press news at a valuation of $157 billion. Now there are some reports that OpenAI is in talks to secure another $40 billion, and this will value the startup at $340 billion, which is 1/3 of a trillion. So just see the numbers that are at play here, right? Like huge numbers. We are not even talking about $1 million. We are talking about $1 billion. $40 million investment being pumped into OpenAI, which will make its valuation $340 billion. But the exam question that we all have to understand that, okay, this is so good. Enterprise, the startups are getting so much money from these investors. But are enterprises, are big companies like, let's say, Infosys, TCS, right, General Electric, Boeing, right, PwC, are they getting the required ROI, return on investment, on the money they're putting into their GenAI efforts? Because at the end of the day, all of us, most of us will work in some of these companies, right? At the end of the day, are those companies getting the value out of their investment? There was a survey that was done by a big four company, PwC, very recent survey. In that survey, if you see the survey, and this link is there, it says only 34% of the CEOs are saying they have got some profit out of their GenAI investment. This is very interesting. So what this is trying to say is that if I ask 100 CEOs today, let's say I ask every 100 CEOs and say, hey man, CEO, have you got a profit out of the money you have put in to GenAI? Okay. Only 34%, meaning 34 out of those 100 are saying, yes, I got some profit out of my investment. That means 66 of those 100 people are saying, no, I did not get any profit out of my investment. This is tremendous, right? Similarly, if you see, only 33% of CEOs are saying they have a high degree of trust. They can trust the GenAI output. They have the trust and the confidence to embed GenAI into their overall ecosystem. Again, that means out of 100 CEOs, 67 CEOs are saying, guys, I really don't have the trust, first of all, to leverage GenAI in my ecosystem. And 66% also are saying that I am not getting any benefit out of it. So you can see there is a gap, right? You can see there is a gap. So at one side of the story, we have so many startups making so much money, getting so much funding. But at the other side of the story, in big enterprises, right, the CEOs are saying they're still very hesitant. 66% of CEOs are hesitant on using GenAI in production. And similar percentage of CEOs are saying we're not seeing any actual benefit. They're not seeing an actual financial benefit from adopting GenAI. So you can see the dilemma that companies have, right? At one part of the game, they are saying, guys, should I wait a little bit? Should I let this GenAI thing stabilize? But at the same time, they are afraid that if they wait too much, what happens? What if a competitor adopts GenAI and overtakes them, basically, right? So this is the dilemma everybody's facing. So in this section, I just want you to think two things: that yes, there's a lot of money in this overall GenAI ecosystem, OpenAI, ChatGPT, all of these things that we hear about every day. But at the same time, if you look at the enterprise landscape, it is telling a different story. It is telling a story where there is a lot of untapped potential, where there is a lot of chaos and apprehension among enterprises on how to use this thing called GenAI, how to use it in a trustworthy, let's say, dependable, accountable, auditable manner so that it gives real benefits to the business. And wherever there is chaos, wherever there is apprehension, there is a job for IT people. So if we can help enterprises solve this problem, right, then we are adding value. So this is very important. So and this is a very nice cartoon. So I kept it here. Here, this CEO is asking somebody, saying, "Have you figured out how AI will impact our business?" And that person is saying, asking the same question to ChatGPT. So you can understand, right? See, enterprise cannot work in this way. Individually, me and you, we can use ChatGPT for asking a question, getting an answer, summarizing an essay. Even if the answer is a little bit bad, it's okay, right? We don't care that much because it's a consumer-facing app, right? We are not taking very serious decisions from that data, right? But just imagine what is happening with a company. A company is not using on this, they're doing real work on real customer data. So always think that if tomorrow ChatGPT came and says, okay, give me the details of your credit card, I will do purchases on your behalf. Will you really give your credit card to ChatGPT? Do you have that level of confidence in ChatGPT? Most of us will say, no, I will not give my bank details to ChatGPT, right? Same thing. So in enterprises, we are getting a lot of details of our clients, right? We are processing actual client data, interesting data, sometimes confidential data. Do we have the right processes in place to ensure that our, let's say, our enterprises are able to use GenAI at scale across the big company in a very safe, secure manner? So this is the section 1. Now, section 2, I want to discuss the data problem. Okay, these are all related. So just keep this in mind, what we discussed in section 1, that problem. Now we're coming to another part of the problem. The problem that is saying is that in a typical enterprise, 73% of the company data is not used for analytics. This is the situation today. That's the survey that was done, I think, a little bit back, but that is what I'm telling you. This from my personal experience also. I'm quite, let's say, aligned with this number. There's so much data that we collect, but are we really able to use it? Are we really able to trust that data? When the time comes to use that data, and you say, guys, can I use the data? There's nobody to own that data, as an example, right? So why is this so complicated today? So this shows that if you see, 74% of companies today have more than 2 database platforms, as an example. 29% of companies have more than 5 data platforms, more than 5 data platforms. So with so many different data providers, different data vendors, different data platforms, obviously there is a complicated situation, right? As a company, now I really don't know. As a data analyst in a company, I really don't know what to use. I have a little bit of Databricks. Somebody's using Snowflake. Somebody's using, let's say, Tabular. Somebody's storing the files in iceberg format. Somebody's doing on SQL, right? So the overall situation is very complicated. As you can see, there is a lot of different situations. And what are companies saying? Companies are saying, no, I need all of these different data platforms because I have different needs. Some people are saying, I want increased flexibility. So I need a little bit of Snowflake and I need a little bit of Databricks. Some people are saying, no, I am the Snowflake costs less than Databricks, so I want to use Snowflake. Some people are saying, no, I don't want to. Yes,
Sorry for the interruption. So
yes,
when
yes,
you
please.
say different data platforms, so is it something like a vendor technology or something like a vendor offering? Do you
Yes.
mean? Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. So, for example, again, I mean, this is an abstraction, but it can be as simple as, for example, somebody is choosing Snowflake and Databricks as
right,
an
right.
example.
Makes
Right?
sense.
That
Yeah,
is one level. Another level would be, for example, even in graph database, maybe somebody is choosing Cosmos DB, somebody else is choosing Neo4j.
right,
Right. Even for relational database, let's say somebody is choosing SQL, PostgreSQL, somebody is saying, no, I will use something else. Right. So the overall idea is in today's modern landscape, you go to any company, you will see that those days when we started maybe our career, we were like an Oracle shop. I used to work in a company, everything is Oracle, right? The database is Oracle. The middle engine is Oracle, right? The data processing thing was Oracle. And even the web servers, which was running the actual application, was also Oracle WebSphere, right? So this was the earlier time, like companies used to be completely tied to a vendor. Now you go to any small company also, a 50-member company is working on 200 different technologies, right? Because that is the need, right? Because one technology does, let's say, streaming data very well. Confluent does streaming data very well. Like somebody else does, let's say, time series data very well, right? So there is a lot of technologies that we have combined. But at the same time, right, this has led to complexity. We cannot say that it is so simple. When I used to work, when I started, right, my career in that Oracle landscape, like I was telling, right, everybody used to get trained for first 4 weeks on Oracle. After 4 weeks, all of you knew Oracle. Every single application is running on Oracle. Tomorrow, I leave a project, somebody else comes in, he knows the technology stack. But today, just go out, somebody is using Databricks in PySpark, somebody is using DuckDB, somebody is using this and that. So it's very complicated today. So all of this use, so this basically this different types of data, different types of databases, different data platforms, all of this makes life very complicated for a data analyst who just tries to, who has a very simple use case, who has been asked by the client to give him some insight. Right. So as you can see, these are different sorts of problems that people are saying we have. So I have so many different types of data in different silos with no connection. There's a problem in the data quality. I don't have trust in the data. I don't know whether the data is actually fit to be used in my analytics. So there are so many problems in an enterprise. That's why I said, right? That's why reports are showing 73% of the data getting unused. Right. So again, but that is the situation today. So if you see in section 1, I just kind of discussed a little bit about this topic of enterprises overall are not getting the required return on investment on their GenAI investment. That's what that section 1 is talking about, right? That was the conclusion. Section 2, what are we thinking? Saying we are seeing that everybody is complaining about their data estate. So now if you try to kind of do a 2 plus 2, 4, right? You can, in your mind, kind of try think that, okay, maybe enterprises are not getting the total value of their GenAI investment because there is this underlying data problem. And if you cannot solve this underlying data problem, GenAI will also not work, right? Because it's like garbage in, garbage out, right? So the overall thought process is that in every single enterprise at scale of very big companies, the data estate is getting more fragmented, more complicated, so many tools, so many silos. There's a multitude of data source, databases, data platforms, data file formats, everything. So unlocking true value out of these data assets is very complicated. So if you go to a single practitioner today, it's like expected that he will understand it with a Snowflake. He will understand how streaming data works and all of that, right? That's why even simple use cases are ending up taking a lot of months. Even if you go to a very simple use case that should ideally in a normal world take 2 to 3 weeks, you will see with so many tooling, whether the data is trusted, data lineage, it will end up taking months, right? And maybe, just maybe, all of this data problem, this underlying data problem is basically the reason behind that statistics that we showed. Because see, me and you, we can say that, okay, AI is good, AI is bad, somebody say AI is very helpful. Data is the best thing, right? I mean, if we speak to the actual people, the CEOs, right, or the CIOs or the CDOs, They have the actual stuff, right? They are saying whether it is helpful. They know how much money they have put into this GenAI investment and how much money they're getting out of it. So today they're saying they're not getting true value out of it. And I feel, based on the analysis that I showed you, that it could be to a large extent because there is a data problem. Unless and until we solve this underlying data problem, companies might not get the true value out of their GenAI investment. So this is section 2. And please feel free to don't stop me whenever, right? Because I'm not able to see the chat or even things. So more than happy to answer questions as we go.
No
So
problem, Turja. Thank you. And for the audience, if you have any questions, feel free to post it in the chat. So um, I'll read it aloud to Turja whenever the need arise. So yeah, so far so good, Turja. Carry on.
thank you so much. Thank you. So again, so now we are going to the section 3. So just a very quick recap. So where are we today? We know that there's a lot of money that has been put into this GenAI startups, but at the same time, our enterprises are not getting a lot of value out of their investment. And we also see that 73% of the data is getting unused. There is so much problem, so much chaos, confusion, complaints about the data estate. So there is something wrong there. Okay, so this is just keep this in your mind when I go to the section 3. The section 3 is an overview on the concept of a platform. Maybe some of you are already using a platform, but this is the conceptual, because this will, with all of these 3 sections, I'm laying the foundation for the section 4, which is the main thing. But this is important for you to understand what is a platform, to be able to truly appreciate how this thing overall works. So platform is nothing but a collection of reusable components that a company has built, right? Which the company has made available in a self-service manner so that the rest of the company can use it rather than building their own. So let's take a very simple example. Okay. So we are all, maybe most of us are data analytics professionals. One of the things that we need to do, and Dunit must have done this countless of times I have done, is get data from the client. Right? At the end of the day, to start the analytic process, I need the data. So the client might say, okay, Dunit, I have this 20 or 200 CSV files. Can you analyze it for me? But the question is, how does the client give the data? Does the client send it over an email? That's not recommended, right? You don't handle that level of data. How does the client share it, right? Does the client keep it in a SharePoint site in their company, make it publicly available, and Dunit downloads it, right?
Yeah.
What are the different things that we have to do? Again, I'm telling you, people have done even worse things.
Yeah, worst
Right? I
case.
mean,
One time I remember someone sent a large Excel file with all the records. So
yeah,
just relating some use cases, worst cases I ever had. Yeah.
exactly, completely. So if you see, every single data analytics professional will have this sort of a use case. So now think of a very big company. Think of a company like 400,000 people, right? Now, a client, you are working on an engagement, the client is saying, Turja, I want to give you this data. But how do you take the data? You don't know, right? So you need a secure environment, because you just cannot use any public site. You cannot use a personal OneDrive, right, to get a client data, right? That's not how it works, right? So you need a secure, trusted data place where the client can very safely and securely, that environment has to be secure with all of those regulations and compliance and everything, so that the client's IT team also feels secure. The client also needs to feel secure when they're uploading the data. You need to download the data, everything. So this data ingestion as a stuff, everybody needs it, right? So do you really think it helps if every single team in the company solves this problem on their own? So I solve it in my team, Dunit solves it in his team, Priyanka solves it in her team. That doesn't make sense, right? If the company solves this problem once and provides this as an option to everybody, this is, okay guys, this is the tool that we have to take data from clients. It is safe, it is secure, it is compliant, everybody can use it. So that tool will then become a part of that underlying platform. So again, this is just an example. Once I show a few diagrams, it will become very easy. And what is platform engineering? The platform engineering is a concept of the team who is building the platform. So this is very important. So there is a specific team in the company who is building this base or core platform. This platform has this small assets, right? Reusable assets, technology assets that you can use. Then you, as an engagement team who is developing the client solution, will use these small assets kind of like Lego blocks, piece them together and build that entire solution. This diagram shows it to some extent. So if you see, we have these infrastructure platforms because everything needs infrastructure. Infrastructure means, let's say, virtual machine, a storage account, that is infrastructure. But then you see, this is what I was talking about, the digital platform. The digital platform is managed by this platform team. This is a specific team within the company who just manages this platform, and they provide some usable components, they provide tools, they provide some services, and they provide some knowledge articles, everything on how to use the platform. And then this platform is exposed via a self-service portal so that a client-facing team can use it. So in this case, what happens? This data sharing thing that the use case I spoke about, right? The platform, or let's say the component that is certified to ingest data from clients, then that component, let's call it component X, it will stay here in the digital platform. That component will be managed, scaled, governed, everything will be handled by the platform team. Now, you, me, Dunit, when we need to use this component, we will go to a self-service portal and say, guys, I just need this component, give that to me. I will click on submit and I will get the key or API key or something to use that component. I will use that component to get the data from the client. So that component, I don't have to think about managing, maintaining, upgrading, patching that component because that component is part of the core platform. The platform is managing that component. I am building the client solution. I will use that component. So again, I will skip this slide in the interest, but this also kind of shows this view. So if you see, we have this platform engineering team who has exposed all of their components either via portal or via an API. And then you see we have this application developers. Most of us are in this level. Most of us, when we work on client projects, we are working as an application developer. We are building solutions. We are building features. But when building that solution, we need some base components, right? Those components, if they're reusable components, if they're nothing specific for my application, then they should sit in this platform engineering section. If it is very specific for my solution or my client deliverable, then obviously it will be built by me, right? But if everybody needs it, another example, just to kind of second this kind of cement this thought process, is antivirus check. Whenever we get data from clients, one of the best practices is doing a virus check on those data. Any ingested data which is coming from outside, let's say user is uploading a file, right? How do I know whether the user has uploaded a malicious file or not? So the idea is every single data that is taken from outside the ecosystem, outside the network, should be scanned with a virus scanning tool. So now let's say I download a virus scanning tool, or I pay a vendor for a virus scanning tool. Dunit again does it for himself. Priyanka does it for her team. Doesn't make sense. So as a company, if the platform team manages that virus scanning tool as a platform component, everybody can use it. So I can use it. Dunit can use it for his engagement. Priyanka can use it for her engagement, right? So that is to think in that way, that anything which is reusable, anything which makes sense to be used by multiple solutions will be part of this platform team, which is a core team, and solutions, individual customer-facing solutions are built on top of this platform. This
Turja,
diagram,
before
yes.
we go to the next slide, sorry for the interruption again.
No,
So
no
we have
worries.
a very good question from the audience asked by Priyanka. So this is one of the open-ended debating questions I had in my mind as well. So how does this platform engineering differs from DevOps and SREs? That's a
Yes.
really good question. If you can
Perfect.
shed some light on that, appreciate it.
100%. So, see, first of all, SRE and platform engineering are complete. So, the platform engineering team also uses the SRE team to ensure that the platform engineering components are also reliable. So, first of all, there is no tension at all in a company between platform engineering and SRE. So, an SRE team, site reliability engineering. So, if you see what an SRE team is supposed to do, their main thought process should be, I need to ensure that the system, that can be a platform, that can be a solution, that can be a client-facing artifact, everything has to be up and running. It has to be reliable. That's why the name site reliability engineering.
Right.
So anybody in the organization can leverage the services of that SRE team. So the SRE team are very good teams, right? They're very technical. They know all about how to keep a system up and running.
Right.
So now think about this diagram. So if you see this diagram here, as I was trying to say, we have the platform team below, and then we have the product team. So the product team is using the platform components. Now let's say I was talking about that antivirus solution, let's say. So this antivirus solution today is where is in this layer, the platform layer, right? Now to ensure that that antivirus solution is up and running, I can leverage the SRE team. So the SRE team, I am leveraging. So even the platform team can leverage the SRE team. So let's say I'm the platform manager for antivirus. I will now go to the SRE team lead and I say, guys, I have this antivirus solution that I've developed as part of the platform. I want your help to ensure it is up and running. So I will use the site reliability engineering team's offerings, tooling, everything to ensure my antivirus thing is up and running. So that is one part. Now you go to the product team. Now let's say there is a product team that is managed by Priyanka. So Priyanka is using my antivirus offering. When Priyanka is using my antivirus offering, she will not rely on the SRE for managing my antivirus because she has outsourced this to me, right? Essentially. So she's saying, Turja, I want to use your antivirus. Can you tell me the SLA of the SLO? So I will tell, yes, Priyanka, I have this antivirus offering. The SLA is 99.5%. That is the SLA. And she will say, okay, how are you sure that you are managing the SLA? Can you show me? Have you breached the SLA anytime? I will show the report from the SRE team. So in this case, just like we are using a third-party API, right? When you are using a third-party API, so from the perspective of Priyanka, this platform component is a third-party API. She doesn't want to manage it, right? She has outsourced that antivirus component to me, and to ensure that that antivirus component is up and running, I am taking the benefit. I'm leveraging the SRE team. Now, let's go to the Priyanka solution. Now, let's say Priyanka has built a payment gateway. Okay, so that is her bigger solution. That big solution has the antivirus as just a small part, right? That part she has outsourced, but she has written a lot of Java code, let's say microservices. So those need also to be scalable. Those also need to be reliable. So separately, Priyanka can also leverage the SRE team for her services, for the stuff that she has written, for the overall solution. So Priyanka is still in charge of the overall client-facing solution. So she might leverage the SRE team for building that client, for ensuring the reliability of that client-facing solution. One part of that overall solution is dependent on the antivirus offering, which is managed by the platform team. And just like Priyanka is owning and managing the reliability of her bigger solution, the full client-facing solution using the SRE team, similarly, I can also, as the owner of the platform component, the platform antivirus component, I can also leverage the SRE team. Okay. Now, with all of this concept, just replaced SRE by DevOps. If you just replace SRE by DevOps, then you will understand that it's the same concept. So there is, again, no tension. And I have spoken about this in different forums, and we can have a separate discussion just on that, that the platform engineering actually uses DevOps. So even in the company that I work for, we have a platform engineering team, and we have people from the overall DevOps team or the DevOps practice in the organization who are working with us. So there is no tension. So think of the platform engineering as a separate section which builds reusable products. And whenever you build so those reusable assets, you will need a developer, you will need an ops guy, you might need a DevOps guy, right? Because so don't think them as different. So just like a solution, so think them, the platform team is also a product team. So there's a concept of a platform as a product. So the good platforms, the people who are building good platforms today in the industry, they manage their platform as if it's a product. They have a product manager. So the company that I work for, we have a chief product officer for our platform. We have product managers, we have product owners, we have DevOps engineers, we have architects, we have everything. So it's just like any other solution. The only difference is the platform is used internally. That is the main difference. So when you build your customer-facing payment gateway, so when Priyanka is building the customer-facing payment gateway, most likely that payment gateway will be used, let's say, by business teams and clients. Whereas the internal platform, the customer is always other developers. That is the only difference. Platform team, our consumers, our clients are internal developers. Our clients are the rest of the firm. Whereas the rest of the firm will use our offerings to build client-facing solutions, but their customers will be actual clients. Does that make sense, Dunit?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think you gave us a good analogy. So basically, just to sum up things, so can we think of platform engineering as a factory, and then DevOps and SRE as enablers or the machinery, and then we build out products. So these products could be solutions, client-facing solutions, like you mentioned, the payment gateway. So I think that solves our
Yes,
doubts. Yeah,
exactly. Only thing that is the difference between the solution, the bigger solution that Priyanka is building, and the platform will be platforms are internal,
right,
right? So the platform by itself is expected to be used by the rest of the firm to build that payment gateway. So to build a payment gateway, you need a lot of reusable assets, right? You need
right,
that antivirus engine, you need an observability engine, you need a logging engine, you need a Kubernetes management cluster. So those things the platform team will build, manage, maintain for you, so that you don't have to manage all of that. So that
right,
every single team doesn't have to manage an antivirus engine, doesn't have to manage a Kubernetes engine. So we will, as a platform, manage all of that. We will also use SRE, we will also use developers, we will also have DevOps engineers, everything. And we will build this solution or a product. So the platform team will also have a product, but then that product, that asset will be used by Priyanka to build a bigger product or a bigger client-facing solution. Okay.
right,
So in the interest of time, I will just now very quickly go to, so why is platform engineering important to know? It's not just because I'm saying, guys, this is platform engineering, I work in platform engineering, I am an advocate. Gartner has said platform engineering is today the fourth biggest technology trend, strategic technology trend. So there is a value. Gartner themselves are saying platform engineering is something that is very interesting. Another thing that I was telling, right? So platform engineering reduces the cognitive load. This is also very, as I was telling to Dunit and Priyanka's question, response to Priyanka's question. If you don't have this platform, central platform team managing these products, right? Then individually, every single developer will have a high cognitive load. Cognitive load means you will have to understand everything. You will have to understand how a JSON file works, have to understand how the antivirus protocol works, will have to understand how that secure data movement works, right? So much already our developers are so kind of stressed, right? Which when I used to code 13, 14 years back, we just used to code, right? We did not do anything. We just used to log into our Visual Studio Code and just check in the code and go home. But now you go to a developer, a full stack developer, they are understanding front end, microservices, observability, Kubernetes. It's like crazy. So the idea of the platform engineer is also to reduce your overall cognitive load. And the fact is, it's not that this is something new. Meaning, it is still a new thing comparatively, but just see how it has progressed. So this is a report that Google published in 2025. They're saying out of 100 companies, only 8 companies have no plans to implement platform engineering. Everybody else has implemented platform engineering in one way or the other. 24% have done it very, let's say, aggressively. 31% have done it for something. So you can understand, right, that people are using platforms. This concept has gained a lot of traction. And if you just imagine that out of 100 companies, only 8 companies are not using, then most likely the companies that we work for, right? I work for, Dunit works for, they are also using a platform in some way or the other. Another very interesting insight is that platforms take time to build. So if you see, the leading platform companies have a platform team who have been working in the background for 5 years. That's how much time it takes to build a strong, robust, really useful platform. The company that I work for, we have been building a platform for 7 years, right? And you might say, what is the value? Okay, after all of this, I am saying there is a value, but what is the actual value? So the same report that Google, the analysis, the survey, that report did, they're saying the people, the companies who have adopted platform engineering are 8 times more likely to be able to release code into production within 1 hour. 8 times more. So let's say my company is a leading platform provider, platform user, platform engineering advocate, and let's say Dunit's company is among those 8% companies who are not into platform engineering. So there is a chance that if Dunit can deploy into production, let's say once every 8 months, I will be able to deploy into production once every 1 month. And we all know, right? The more we can deploy to production, the more we can help our business react to changes, right? That is all the game about, right? Everybody in IT is trying to deploy more into production. Okay. So anyways, so with all of this, what I'm trying to say with this over the three sections is that there is some problem in the GenAI ecosystem because enterprises are not getting the value out of it. We are assuming that could be because of the data problem, that the data is unused. And now I briefly introduce this concept of a platform. What is a platform? It's a internal thing. It's an internal team who builds this sort of internal reusable assets or products that the rest of the organization can use. It will help in deduplication. It will help in reusability. With all of this, now let us come to the data and analytics space quickly. So if you go to this different analytics, see, we have different sorts of use case and different sort of maturity. Across a big enterprise, not everybody is doing the same thing, right? So we will have some teams, if you see, which is low complexity, low maturity. This will be simple analysts who are just running on their laptop. They got some data from an Excel file. They will run something on their laptop. They might even use Microsoft Excel. Some of the best analysts I know use Microsoft Excel, right? So that is like a low complexity, low maturity comparatively, right? They're not using any cloud platform. They're using everything on their laptop. They don't know Snowflake. They don't want to run PySpark, everything. So we have those sort of use cases. Then we have this middle ground of use cases, which is the same sort of teams, but they're doing something little bit more complicated. So they're not on the laptop anymore, maybe because the processing that they need to run their analytics cannot be done on their laptop. So now they're using some sort of a cloud-based distributed data processing system like Databricks or Snowflake or Microsoft Fabric, and they're using it. And obviously, they're getting some client data. So there is some security concerns as well, how to get the data, how to create the insights, and how to share the data. So all of that is happening here. So this is a little bit more maturity. So this was low maturity. Client gave me a file maybe, or it was a sample data or some public facing data. I opened that file in Excel. I did the analytics on Excel. I created a PPT, shared it back with the client. That is the level one. Level two was I am getting some data from the client. These are little bit higher volume data, little bit more complicated data. I need a cloud-based environment to analyze and process the data. And then I want to share the analytics in an online way to the client. And the finally is the third level of complexity and high maturity is I need a full-fledged data platform, full-fledged enterprise-grade supply chain platform where I will get a lot of data. I will do data lineage, data trust. I might obfuscate some of the data. I will do a lot of analytics at scale. And then finally, I will create a reporting or insights and I will share it with the clients. So there are different levels of complexity. Now, if you see what is happening today, this is what I call the value realization gap, right? So the basic level of use cases that people are doing today, which I call the hello world use cases, right? Where somebody is writing some PySpark on some Databricks cluster and stuff, right? Doing a hello world by watching a YouTube video on their laptop, right? That is there, right? That is very easy to do. You will see every single vendor has so many nice how to get started articles. But the typical enterprise use cases are beyond those hello world, right? They are not just at a hello world level. Because the moment you are working with an enterprise, even if it's a very simple use case, I told you so many problems, right? You have this problem of getting the data from the client in a safe, secure way. Antivirus check, for example, right? You might want to do some data quality, right? For the maybe the data is not correct, right? Because the client will give you some bad data, right? Dirty data. You will have to correct the data. Then the question becomes, okay, I have taken the data into my network. I have done the analytics. Now, how do I share the analytics insights back? So if I created a Power BI report, how do I ensure my client gets access to the report? Because the client is not in my network. So even a very, very simple use case is much, much more complicated than a hello world. And this is what happens today, right? In enterprises, if you see that they onboard vendors, they onboard this and that, the typical use cases works very well, but those things start breaking at scale. And this is where I'm saying Let's go back to the platform concept. So that's why I introduced you to this platform concept. Why I'm going to the platform? Because I'm saying that can this platform help? Can my platform help in bridging this value realization gap? What do I mean by that? Can I ensure that some of these common things that every single data analytic professional is needing, can those be served by this underlying platform? So that anybody who is starting on this data analytics journey within the enterprise, they don't need to think about everything. They don't need to know everything. They don't need to have such a high cognitive load. We are pushing some of that load down into the platform layer. Okay. But what does that mean? How does that look like in practice? Obviously, it's a very complicated thing, but I will just give you a few examples. So one of the examples is, let's say, Dunit tomorrow got a use case where he needs to, a client has given him some work and now he needs to use a graph database, right? Because he needs to use a graph database. First question, normally without a platform, he will, okay, what graph database is allowed in my company? What is secure? Where do I have a license? Where do I have a vendor? Everything which is approved, right? So if you have a platform marketplace where you can just go and search what are the options available. So here I'm just giving you a sample view of the marketplace. So I have Azure SQL, I have Neo4j, I have Databricks, Cosmos DB, Snowflake. Let's say these are all of the flavors that the platform team has already built and made available via the marketplace. So now what Dunit needs to do, he needs to just come here and click on the consume button and he will get a Neo4j instance. So just imagine the level of democratization that is happening. Earlier, you were having to, okay, how do I need to talk to the vendor. How do I get a Neo4j license? Okay, to get the license, how do I do procurement, right? How do I manage the vendor? How many licenses do I need? Many things were there. But now the platform team has abstracted all of that. They are managing the security. They are managing the underlying licenses, vendors, security reviews, infosec reviews, everything. And they have made it available but by a very simple self-service marketplace. So me or Dunit or Priyanka, we just go there, click on consume and we get it. So basically the idea is everything that is available, all of the tooling that is available within the enterprise for a data and analytics professionals to be used has to be made available in a single catalog and has to be self-service, basically. End of story. If we have that, then we have solved the problem to a large extent. So that is one solution. The other solution is many times we will get some data from the client, which is good, but we might need to append that with some other data.
Surya, one
Right? So,
question. Sorry for the
yes,
interruption.
yes,
Another
please.
good question came up. So this is from Ahmed. Uh,
Yes.
will all data team verticals eventually fall under platform engineering, or should certain data functions maintain independence? So that's a really good question, I think.
Yes. So I will tell you rule of thumb, high level rule of thumb, which will be helpful for you guys to think about it is anything which more than 3 to 5 business units, sometimes let's call it even simple, 3 to 4 business units are asking for should be in the platform, whether it is data analytics, anything. If every single business unit in your firm is building something, that there is duplication, right? If somebody is doing it, so let's say there is a healthcare portfolio within your company who are doing something very, very specific for healthcare.
Mhm.
Very specific. Nobody else in the company needs it. Let's say they have this very specific healthcare database. I'm just making it up, called healthcare Neo4j. Let's say.
Mhm.
Nobody else needs it. Then there is no point in the platform team doing it.
Right.
Obviously, there are more nuances, but at a very, very high level, that is an approach that you can take. And because there is a, see, it's not that I come and say, okay, make this a platform offering, or you come and make it. Because the platform is being managed as a product, introducing a new product will also need a lot of analysis. Like, should it be the part of the platform or should it not be a part of the platform? Right.
Right.
So all of that analysis will also need to be done. What is the complex? Should I build it myself or should I just buy it from a vendor? So that build versus buy. So I am making it very simple, but as you can understand, right, it's like in itself, it's a discipline, right? It has a lot of stuff. There is a very nice book called Platform Strategy by Gregor Hoff. If you, and I can paste the link later, you can go through it if needed. And we can talk later because of the time constraint. I'm just going through it, but more than happy to answer questions later over that Slack channel or even on LinkedIn. Okay.
Sounds good, Turja. Yeah, you can carry on. Yeah.
Thank you. The second thing, as I was saying, right? So we need some data from clients, but sometimes we need to append that data with some other third-party data. Third-party data could be, let's say, age data, population data, city data, state index data, stock market data. So again, getting the data by itself is also very complicated, right? I mean, where is the data? Do I have the license to use the data? So just like I showed you this marketplace for all of the offerings, there could also be the perspective of a marketplace with all of this third-party data. So this is not the actual tool. This is the actual data. This is files, CSV files, JSON files. So again, when I have a use case, tomorrow Dunit, same use case that Neo4j use case. So first Dunit goes here, he selects Neo4j, installs it. Everything is done, gets a license. Then he comes here and he searches that, okay, I need to do this analytics. I got some client data, but I also need the population density data of Sri Lanka. Okay, so that data may be managed by a vendor or by the Sri Lanka government. That data is also available in this data marketplace. So let's call it a data marketplace or a data portal. So now Sunit comes here and downloads that data. So just see two things. He has now everything. He has the Neo4j database that he needs to use. He has the client data that he got, and he now also has this master data or this adjoining data, which is the Sri Lanka index, population index. Third thing is the actual tooling. So when I say that tooling, it's not only the database, it is beyond the database. It could be data engines, right? Data processing engines like DuckDB, Teradata, right? It could be RAG, basically DAG pipeline stuff like Airflow. Again, all of the data tooling landscape, actual tools that data analyst needs to install on their laptop, like SQL Server Management Studio, for example, right? Or Microsoft Azure Data Factory. Everything should be available. Again, same concept, self-service. I know what is available. Another very interesting thing here, guys, is that it's not that everything needs to be available. The platform team will only make what is available, what is widely used available. Now, if you have a very, very specific use case, now somebody is saying, no, I cannot use DuckDB, I want to use this thing, which is a competitor of DuckDB, then you can always do that. But then there also should be an exception process. Right, the idea is that the firm doesn't do a lot of similar stuff. Right, everybody kind of converges on this platform so that we have a lot of investments into this platform. Right, so that because this platform will also take money to build. Right, so if I build this platform with DuckDB and I offer DuckDB and everybody else is using something else, then that whole concept breaks. So if somebody cannot use this, they can use something else, but the platform team would need to know why they cannot use this, what was the specific thing for which they needed something else, so that in future that other thing that they used can also be brought back into the platform. This is called platform convergence. Platform convergence means if you are doing something else outside of the platform, how do you over time bring those components back into the platform?
Okay. That was an interesting personal question I had in mind as well, because once we build a common ground, common platform, so what happens when a team tries to bring in something which is not applicable to the platform? It's like trying to put something into square pegs into round holes or something like that. So how do you practically handle that kind of situation? Like, do you have like an intake process or evaluation process and then like a governing body?
Exactly, just like any other product. Like let's say tomorrow in your company, you need somebody wants to, let's say you guys are using Azure DevOps and I come there and say I will use Jira. Right, obviously you will have to understand, okay, why cannot you use Azure DevOps? Why do you need Jira? I will make my business case. Right. And finally, also basically because the platform is being treated as a product, so every single product management practice will be applied at the platform. That is a good thing with this concept of platform as a product. So we don't really need to reimagine or reinvent how to manage the platform, because we have already been managing products for so long. So we can take all of those product management principles and practices and approaches, right, and standards and best practices and put it into the platform. Obviously, there is some nuances, and I mean, as I said, right, there is a concept of platform convergence in itself, right? How do you converge? And this is one of the work that I do in my company, but there is a lot of other stuff as well. But we can go through it maybe in details later. But the concept should be at a very high level that Not everything will be part of the platform. That is number one. The platform will be there where more and more people are asking for something, then it becomes a part of the platform. If more than 2 to 3 business units are using something, then it becomes part of the platform, because making something a part of the platform also takes time. But now, if there is some specific team in the company who wants to use something which is not in the platform, they can use it, as long as they can give a very valid justification why the things which are available in the platform cannot meet their needs. It should not be, oh, I love Jira, so I will use Jira. If the company has spent millions of dollars in ADO, in training people, in licensing, everything, then just because I want to use Jira is not a very good use case for me to use Jira. If I can explain to you that, no, Dunit, this is the benefits of using Jira, that's why I need to use Jira, that's a different story. And then at some point of time in future, you might say, yeah, so many people are asking for Jira. Does it make sense for the platform team to offer both ADO and Jira?
Right.
Right? That's a bigger conversation. The fourth thing again is providing a rapid prototyping or sandbox. This is also very simple. How do you provide? It's very important. How do you provide a very safe, secure environment? Right, a very safe and secure environment where very quickly people can run analytics. So it's not like you raise a ticket and this and that. It's like completely self-service, full environment, right? I get a subscription, I get the data stores, right? I get a Spark cluster, right? Everything is self-service. I just set it up within 40 minutes. It is set up. I load the data, I do some analytics, and then I destroy the environment, right? So this rapid prototyping sort of use cases, that should also come as part of the platform, right? So the platform should have this analytics sandbox, let's call it, right? Sort of a offering which people or engagement teams can use to just try out different sort of permutations, combinations, and hypotheses. The fifth thing is managing this analytics hub, let's call it, right? So this is like, let's say Dunit is working with that client. The client was giving him some data, and Dunit wrote a lot of SQL scripts, a lot of PySpark scripts that can process that sort of a use case. Now, tomorrow, Priyanka also has a similar sort of a use case, but she doesn't know that Dunit has already solved it in her company, right? Because in big companies, nobody knows what if the other person is doing, right? These are big, huge companies, right? These are like countries in its own, in a way, right? Like 400,000, 500,000 people. Even maybe Priyanka is sitting beside me, and I don't know that me and her are actually working on the same analytics use case, but for different clients. But would it not have helped if there was like a repository, like kind of like Hugging Face, but for within the company, right? So you have all the machine learning models, any analytics repository script that we have written, we can upload it there so that the rest of the firm can see, right? And they can download it, they can use it, and I can ring fence it, right? If I have invested a lot of time and effort and money in building that, I might not even want to give it for free, but I will still list it. So some things might be free, which I can just download, which others can download, and some things might be just contact me button. So it will be like, okay, Dunit has written a very complicated script. His team has spent, let's say, thousands of dollars in building that script. He might not want to give it for free, but at least I can see it and I can click on that contact button, and then I reach out to Dunit, and Dunit says, okay, I can do this for you. You have to pay this to me. But it's still better than doing it again, end to end, right? And this is also self-service. This entire analytics hub by itself is self-service, right? It will help me see all of the analytical assets at the enterprise level, download those assets. It will help me upload my assets also, right? So that I can collaborate it. It will be a collaborative environment. I can create safe spaces for my teams where, let's say, 5 or 6 members of my team can share assets. So by itself also, this is a very, very interesting concept. So this data hub concepts and this analytics hub concepts, most big enterprises are doing something around this space. The last thing I told you, right? If you see the overall maturity, right? The final part of that maturity thing was, I am not doing just small stuff, right? I'm doing a big, wide, enterprise grade scale stuff, right? End-to-end enterprise grade. So what happens in an enterprise grade, as I was telling you, right? You have this, I am going a little fast in the interest of time, right? So that I can cover it because I have something else as well after this. So you have the client data, the client ecosystem. Then you go through this simple medallion architecture to some extent. You ingest the data, you pre-process the data, you transform the data, then you map it to common data models, you do some visualization, and then your clients will access the data. Basically, that is what everybody of us are doing, right? Standard data supply chain. This is an enterprise. So every single team can do it on their own. If they want, they could have done. So Dunit can set this up entirely on his own. I can set it up on my own. Then tomorrow Priyanka sets it up on his own. Or we can go with a platform-centric approach. So in the platform-centric approach, as you can see, I have tried to make which are the platform components. So many of the stuff are basically completely managed by the platform. So I was telling, if you remember in the initial use case, I explained you, right? The data movement utility. So the data movement utility is that secure data movement utility, which helps me get data from client to my ecosystem, right? So I was telling you, right? I mean, every single team, Dunay's team, my team can build this, or we make it as a part of the platform. So in this, I told you about the third-party vendor data marketplace. This is also part of the platform. See all of these small use cases, everything, every of these use cases, you will need some sort of a Databricks cluster, or you will need Snowflake. See, everything is self-service, right? And this is the central platform that powers the use case. Then you have standard visualization tooling, maybe Power BI, maybe ClickView, right? So overall, the idea is very simple, right? The idea, so see, we can go into a lot of depth on those individual things, and more than happy to do it when needed, right? But the overall idea that you need to take away from this, and then you can do your research, is that there is this concept of a platform, number one. Then there is this concept of the data is not being used. And there are different use cases across different levels of maturity. So always you have to think, how can I do stuff at scale? To do stuff at scale, what you have to always think is, guys, what are those common patterns? What are those reusable entities that everybody in the firm is using? Right? What are those common things? And how can I push that back into my platform layer? The more I can push those reusable components, those common patterns into the platform, the more my developers don't have to think about it. Their cognitive load reduces, and the platform addresses the entirety of the life cycle. As I showed you, right? It handles small use cases, it handles big use cases, it handles this middle ground of use cases for sandbox. So all of that, that's how we should think, right? To democratize data and analytics, right? We need to make it self-service. We need to ensure people can access it, know what are the assets already available, and everything here has to be built on this top of this foundational data layer. So again, what is the recap? There is a value realization gap, as I was telling you about, right? There are different levels of maturity at the same time. So a platform-centric approach can be the backbone. It can be the backbone which powers your entire data and analytics democratization journey. Very important, it has to be self-service. The moment you ask today is a ticket, and the ticket takes 7 days, 10 days, nobody will use it. It has to be self-service. And you need to provide guidance, not only on the tooling. So you need to provide guidance on the tooling, you need to provide guidance on the platform, and you also need to help them get the data, the actual data. And then, obviously, finally, when all of this data analytics is done, guys, what we end up with? We end up with some insights. So the same platform components needs to also help us share those insights with the client in a very safe, secure manner. So the entire life cycle that we are showing here, these green components, they're all part of the platform. Why I have kept this as white components, if you see external landing, these are white because this is where you are putting your IP. This is where you are writing your Python script, so to speak. Though this could be different, right? The Python script I will run will be different than the Python script that Dunit will run, because the use case might be different. But the underlying platform, right? The platform, the compute, the network, the actual data platform, the Databricks where I'm running those scripts is still the same Databricks, right? Why do all of us need to manage it in our own way? Getting the data is the same concept. I also need to get data from my client. Dunit also needs to get data from my client. I also need to share my Power BI report. Dunit also needs to share the Power BI report, right? I also need some third-party data. Dunit also needs some third-party data. So in this way, so always think what are those some of the common stuff. Any questions in the chat? Otherwise, I will just go to the final, because I think we are already a little bit over time.
No, Turja, we are good. I think you can proceed with that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So there is this concept of AI-ready data, right? I told you, right? This all ties back. This is why the closing section is very important. This all ties back. I told you, right, initially that 73% of the data is unused, 67% of the CEOs are saying I'm not getting value. Because to do good AI, just like to do good analytics, to do good AI, you need good data, right? You need a strong data foundation with good governance, unified cataloging. Without all of this, you cannot. And having this sort of platform-centric approach gives you all of that. so to speak, right, to a large extent. Again, I'm not saying this is simple, right? This is also complex. Platform engineering in itself is also complex, but the thought process is what I want you to leave with, that this is how enterprises are thinking about things. At a small level, doing a POC on a laptop, creating a sample Azure account, running some PySpark on a database, that's one thing, right? But the moment you try to do it at scale, at a big level, right, the challenges are much higher. The second thing, which is a little bit interesting, is there is this concept. I don't know how many of you know that, how many of you have read this blog. There is this blog called Big Data is Dead. This is written by the CEO of a company called DuckDB.
Yeah.
So they are saying that what is big data? They have defined big data as any data which is more than 10 terabytes. That's what they're saying is big data. And they're saying 95% of the databases don't have anything more than 10 terabyte. So then they're saying that use case is very nice. And I just wanted to think, kind of help you think about this is, do we really need these big data processing platforms, or do we have some other, or should our platform or should our enterprise think about small data? Right. So as you can see, they have done this huge analytics and huge analysis and survey, and they're saying 95% of the use cases in a typical enterprise doesn't really need these big data tools. There is even a movement they have started, which they are calling small data movement. So they're saying we believe in the simple joys of small data. More data doesn't always mean better results. Single machines are efficient and powerful. Developing locally just works. These are some of their manifesto. So basically, there's a different sort of a thought process where people are saying, guys, can I use the processing power of my laptop? I don't want to use this Databricks in the cloud. I don't want to use this distributed data platforms. Can I just use my laptop? So I told you, if you remember, initially there was this low maturity use case where people were using Excel on their laptop, right? But Excel, as we know, right, is not like a modern full-fledged data platform of sorts, right? But for some of the use cases, just because Excel is not enough, I am moving to maybe Databricks in the cloud, right? Because I cannot run Databricks on my laptop. So can I run this thing? Can I run this thing called DuckDB? I don't know how many of you have. I have played around with DuckDB. It's tremendous, right? It's very. So this is a new OL AP engine, right? That actually can run on your laptop. So if you have even a simple laptop with 32 GB or 16 GB RAM, right? DuckDB will run on that laptop. You can use all of you can use Parquet files, Avro files, Iceberg table format, Delta Lake. You get the data, you process the data, and you do whatever you want with the data. So DuckDB is also very powerful. So what I'm trying to say here again, because why I wanted to introduce to you this concept is that across an enterprise, right, there are different sorts of use cases. So a platform needs to be able to meet different types of use cases, right? Somebody who wants to use an Excel, if you ask them to set up a Databricks cluster, which will cost them $4,000 per month, that's not a solution. So we also need to think about, if 95% of the use cases can be solved on my laptop, what can I do to help my data analytics professionals who are on their laptop be successful? So this is the concept of the small data movement. With this, my presentation is kind of at the end, right? Again, more than happy to connect with all or some of you in LinkedIn. And I will hand over to Dunit. I know I had to rush a little bit at the end because of the time, but I hope this was helpful and open to some questions if anybody wants to ask something. Yeah.
If you have any questions, please, you can directly unmute yourself and ask from Turja yourself, or just post it in the chat. In the meantime, this is thanks for your time, Turja. It's a very engaging and thought-provoking discussion, and I realize the value of platform engineering. I feel like it's like a flywheel effect. It's like at the beginning, it takes some time and effort for you to build a robust, reliable platform, but once you have it in production, once you have it in motion, it starts to pay you back. And that's what exactly you mentioned. Onboarding new use cases fast. That means enterprises can move to, they can derive value faster time to market. So that's a really good approach. And then another key takeaway, I would say, if your data platform has cross-cutting concerns, like, for example, like you mentioned, data governance, and then user authentication, provisioning users, and then data quality. Like data catalog can be in a platform component, while you can have uh, different processing, compute, and storage requirement for different use cases. And yeah, one last thing. So, in terms of job market today, do you see new job roles in this platform engineering, for especially for data? Can you share some insights? I think you are on mute, Turja.
Sorry, Ronit. So
No
I
problem.
don't have the slides right now, but actually, to be very fair, I have another session. Maybe in a future, 2, 3 months later, we can do a
Right.
session just on
Exactly.
platform engineering,
Yeah.
because that could be interesting also, irrespective of the data part. Is that if you see what we are seeing, that the salary that platform
Mhm.
engineers are getting is roughly 1.5 to 1.7 times more than the salary that DevOps engineers are getting.
Wow.
There is a
That's an
state of
interesting.
platform survey,
Yeah.
state of platform survey that is run by this company called Humanitech. That company has published this survey in 2024. And as I told you, right, Gartner is saying it is the fourth most important trend and all of that. But more than happy to continue, like you said, Dunit, right? I will join that Slack thing. If anybody has any questions,
Yes,
I will
please.
answer there.
Yeah.
And in future, if it makes sense, we can do a little bit more on just the concept of platform engineering in itself. Till that time, as I said, right, I mean, the more we think, right, okay, what are some of the problems that an enterprise is facing, and those problems are a little bit different, right? That's why, and I know all of you guys are in and working, most of you are working in some sort of an enterprise, right? So just think, see how those problems are, then try to relate it back. 95% there is a chance that your company already has a platform in some way or fashion, right? So it's a different, but ideally need to drop off now,
Yeah.
guys.
Thank you. We'll
So
wrap it up as well. Thanks for joining. Thanks for your time, Turja. Really appreciate it. And hope everyone a good, nice weekend as well. Thanks.
thank you all. Bye.
And I'll be posting the recording in few days, so you can expect an email from me at any time. So thank you for joining us today, everyone, and hoping to see you next month as well.
Thank you.